Hi, it's Michelle. Welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, my name is Michelle. I make videos about books. Please hit the subscribe button. It really helps my channel grow. Now, if you could tell from this title, I know exactly what I'm going to title this. I am not a fantasy girly. I can't remember the last time I read a pure fantasy. I did read a book this year with, or last year? A year with fantasy elements in it and enjoyed it a lot. But if you hand me a fantasy book, I will laugh at you. So when Fourth Wing came out, I had extreme FOMO. And not because of the gorgeous book with the sprayed edges and the dragons. No, it's because I've had so many people compare this to Hunger Games and Divergent. And I have reread Hunger Games and Divergent recently, like within the past 2 years, and they still hold up. So this is why I have FOMO for Fourth Wing. So this is going to be a Rebecca Yarros taste test. I'm not just going to read Fourth Wing, I'm also going to read one of her adult romance books because I want to know how she went from adult romance, like contemporary romance, to Fourth Wing. I think that's really, really interesting when authors can do that. I haven't read a lot of books like those because they usually are fantasy. The only things that I can compare it to is when like YA authors go to adult romance. That's like the best that I can do, but I wanted to do this with Rebecca Yarros because I didn't want to miss out on this, and I wanted a non-fantasy reader to read Fourth Wing and give you a review for people who are also not fantasy readers, because I have a lot of those on my channel. So I'm going to read The Things We Leave Unfinished. I'm currently reading it now. I'm not far enough in to tell you anything about it. I have just started it. We're going to start with her backlist adult romance, and then I will go straight into Fourth Wing. And I just want to compare the writing, why I think the publishers pushed Fourth Wing so hard, and like why I think she went from adult contemporary romance to like new adult fantasy with dragons. I do know it has romance. I don't know if it's spicy. So I'm just calling this, I don't know what I'm calling this. It's Rebecca Yarros taste test. Your girl read a fantasy book or something. So let's go on this journey together. But first, let's start with the romance book. Like the solid contemporary romance book. Let's go. So I'm around 25% into The Things We Leave Unfinished by Rebecca Yarros. Now, I don't know if this is considered her most popular romance. I really know nothing about Rebecca Yarros. I did this so I could really see how she made the jump between romance to this new adult fantasy. And once again, I don't really read fantasy. So we're gonna see how this goes. So normally I would give you a summary in my own words about what is happening, but there's kind of a lot happening and I don't want to get it mixed up, so I'm gonna read a little bit of the back. 28-year-old Georgia Stanton has to start over after she gave up almost everything in a brutal divorce, the New York house, the friends, and her pride. Now back home at her late great-grandmother's estate in Colorado, she finds herself face to face with Noah Harrison, the best-selling author of 1 million books where the cover is always people nearly kissing. He's just as arrogant in person as in interviews, and she'll be damned if the good-looking writer of love stories thinks he's the one to finish her grandmother's first novel, even if the publisher swears he's the perfect fit. So when we meet Noah, Georgia is in a bookstore that was owned by her dead great-grandmother, and she meets Noah and she doesn't realize that he is the author of these books that she's like kind of complaining about, how she's making fun of like the covers a la Nicholas Sparks, if you will. So what is happening is it's told in 2 different timelines. There's Georgia and Noah is going to write Georgia's great-grandmother's last novel. She left it unfinished. She wrote like 73 books. Think Danielle Steele. That's who we're thinking. And she died 6 months ago, and she has one last book, and Noah is slated to finish this book. Georgia and Noah are not getting along. but they have attraction. We know this. They have each said this to each other. Now we're also following the 1940s, where I do believe we are reading Scarlett, who is Georgia's great grandmother and also the writer, what happened to her during the war. And she is fallen in love with this American pilot in the war, but this dude that she's fallen in love with is not the dude that she ends up marrying. So like, I am interested to see how this is going to play out. It's definitely not something I would normally read. Like, I am mostly, when I read romance, all about rom-coms. This does remind me, even though she's making fun of Nicholas Sparks, it does remind me of Nicholas Sparks. So we will see how it goes. I am not far in at all. Like, I have barely scraped the surface about what this book is about. But I mean, I'm not hating it. It's just like not a rom-com. I don't know if it'll be spicy at all. I've said this before and I'll say it again. I don't care if my books are spicy. This is just a different romance than what I would normally pick up, and that's okay. I am 69% into the things we leave unfinished. I'm not gonna lie to you. I was a little bored. It took me a while to care about any of these characters, and there are like 4 main characters. And there's 2 in present day and 2 main characters in the 40s. And it's not that I don't like historical fiction, it's just like not something I gravitate towards. However, around the 40% mark, I don't know what happened, but I got really into this. And at first I was really liking, obviously, the present day more because that makes sense for me. But now I'm kind of liking the 40s more. It's a little bit more interesting. Like, I like both of the storylines. Anyway, I'm liking this. I'm really, like, I was reading it and I was listening and reading along, and I was thinking, this is a solid 3. This is a solid 3. There's nothing wrong with a 3. I'm gonna give this a 3. And now, I don't even know. But it's not a 3. It's higher than a 3. I'm invested. I care about these characters. I love this storyline. Their writing is great. I'm having an issue with the audiobook, which has nothing to do with the book, but this has never happened to me before. But I thought it was an issue with like Libby, but it's definitely not. But there are sentences that keep repeating in this audiobook, and it, like, the first time it happened, I was like, am I okay? Because I thought I was going crazy. But no, it's happened several times where like one sentence will just like repeat and then they'll go on. It's very weird. It's quite a weird situation, but I'm really liking this book. It's not something, like I said, it's not something I normally read, but this girl can write. So like, am I gonna continue reading her like new adult like, this is just considered romance. I looked at her backlist and she has things that are considered new adult and like super spicy. That's like her backlist. So not for this video, but I think I'm gonna keep going. Like, I think I'm gonna read her other stuff besides this and Fourth Wing. Not for videos, just for me. So I mean, I'm not done this book yet, but I'm liking it a lot. I finished The Things We Leave Unfinished. I absolutely love this book. Like, if people are freaking out over Fourth Wing, like, I'm freaking out over this one. This was absolutely incredible. There were so many things that I just did not see coming. And overall, it was a great romance. And like I said, like, this is not a romance I would normally pick up, but like, maybe I should, because I absolutely love this so much. And I loved both aspects. I loved the historical fiction part and the modern day part. And like I said, I still like the historical fiction part more than the modern day. But this is an easy 5 stars. And like I said yesterday, I thought it was I was reading it and I was like, yeah, this is a solid 3. No, 5 stars just blew me away. I absolutely enjoyed this. So like, I can't even tell you how much I enjoyed this. Like, I did not want it to end, and this is kind of long for me. This is over 400 pages, which for me is long. So 5 stars for the things we leave unfinished. So now I'm gonna go into Fourth Wing, and I hope I love it just as much as I love this book. I think it's gonna make my top of the year. No joke. Like, I don't think any other romance I read this year has come close to this one. So, like, what the fuck? Hey, so I haven't started this yet. I normally don't talk about books before I start them, only in my introduction, but I want to talk a little bit about why I'm so nervous to read this. So, more than one person has recommended this to me because of Divergent and Hunger Game vibes, which I reread Divergent and Hunger Games a lot, and I really like dystopian, like the early 2010 dystopian, like that shit was good. But as far as fantasy goes, I am terrified of world building, so I am scared of this book because it is a fantasy, and I am afraid of the world building, and I always have been like this because when I read, I don't really like picture things in my head. It's very like blurry, if that makes sense. Like, it's not vivid, it's not nothing, it's just blurry. So a fantasy really scares me because I can't like see the worlds, if that makes sense. So I am quite nervous about this, and I want to like this. Like, I want to buy into the hype. I want to like the dragon stuff. Like, I just want to like it. So I just wanted to talk about it a little bit before I read it, about like why I'm so nervous and why I've been putting it off and stuff. So I'm starting it now, so we'll see. I'll update you. I am 27% into Fourth Wing. That took me, I usually read like at night and during the day, but I only read at night for the past 2 days because it's a holiday and my husband's been home, so I've been hanging out with him. But it's taking me quite a while to get 25%, and that's because it's a bigger book than what I usually read. That's how much of a fantasy girl I am not. But we are following Violet, who is 20, and that's why it's new adult. Also, it's new adult because I cannot count how many times she has said fuck, and I'm like, simple joys for me. Anyway, we're following Violet, who is sent to this like academy where it's kind of like Dauntless from Divergent, right? So she has to complete all these like tasks and stuff, but she wasn't supposed to go until the general, who is also her mother, like basically forced her to go. And now she isn't doing great. Like, she reminds me of Triss in that way. Like, they describe her as like really really tiny and really like frail. And also, I haven't found out a lot about this, but it seems like she might have some kind of disability. Like, she is getting injured a lot more than normal. Like, she keeps putting a brace on her knee, and like I don't know why yet, so I'm just assuming that she might have some kind of disability, which would be really interesting, but I just haven't gotten there yet. Anyway, not a lot of interactions with the dragons yet, but I'm only 130 pages in. However, it could be a love triangle and also enemies to lovers, or also friends to lovers, depending on which way the love triangle goes. So her like squad leader is her childhood friend, Dane, and he for sure likes her, and she just is like blah 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 stupid about it. Like, I don't know if she likes him or not. But then there's also Xaden, enemies. Her mom killed his dad, and now he for sure wants to kill her, either kill her or fuck her. I don't know, get this idea. I don't know, but she is attracted to at least Xaden, and maybe a little bit of Dane. So that's what I know. 130 pages in, which is 30%. I feel like, not that I'm bored, I don't know, it's hard to describe. And I just feel like it's so long, it's long for me, so I'm just like trying to figure out what could happen next. I do Okay, so since I have read The Things We Leave Unfinished, I cannot find any similarities so far in the writing. It feels like completely like she started from scratch. Like this was all about romance and World War II and all this stuff. And Fourth Wing just feels like a completely different author now that I've like pretty much read them back to back. And I cannot find any real similarities in their writing, which I guess is good if she is, like, she kept her name, like, she didn't use a pen name or anything. So she wanted to be seen as someone who can write, you know, this romance and this new adult fantasy. So that's really interesting. Those are my thoughts. This is a long clip. I'm 50% into Fourth Wing and I am obsessed with this. I'm supposed to be like watching and playing with my kids. I'm completely ignoring my kids today, so I'm not gonna win Mama of the Year. But the last time I updated, I said that there wasn't a lot of stuff with dragons, and literally the next chapter, everything with the dragons started. So yeah, but the way that the dragons communicate is fucking awesome, and I never thought I would say this because I don't like fantasy. Like, I don't like anything about fantasy, but I'm absolutely obsessed with this. And honestly, I would read anything with dragons. Who am I? Who am I right now? There's a lot of death in this. Is there a lot of death in all fantasy? Like, I'm not used to that. I read a lot of romance where there is like absolutely no death ever. Obviously I read a little bit of thrillers too, and there is usually a little bit of death in that, but like there is so much death in Fourth Wing. Like every other chapter someone is dying. But I am obsessed with the dragons, especially Violet's dragon. I really I just like, I feel like giddy. I feel like like this is such a good book, and like it doesn't feel like it's not okay, so it's not like high fantasy. Like the most fantasy thing about this is that there's dragons and they like communicate, right? So that is to me not like a big deal. It is obviously a different world than like what we live in, but like as far as world building goes, it's not like I can't figure it out in my little brain. So what I'm saying is that 50% into this, I'm absolutely obsessed with this book, and I literally cannot wait to finish it. But I have like 10 more hours of this audiobook, which is so many hours. And I also like, what else is gonna happen? Also, the enemies to lovers, like I'm obsessed. Oh god. I am 73% into Fourth Wing. I don't know words, but I'm still really loving this. I feel like it's gotten a lot more action-packed, especially with the dragons now. Like, this is definitely a dragon book. Like, you cannot say that. I will say, for me personally, as someone who does not read fantasy, I do feel like it has gotten more fantasy now with like the battle scenes. Like, that is not something I would ever read in anything else that I read, right? That is pretty much left up to fantasy. So it's not that it's losing me, but maybe that I am losing interest in those scenes in particular. Not that it's not good, it's just not something that I would, you know, normally read in any of my other genres I read. So I am keeping up and I am still liking it, but I'm gonna be completely honest with you, is that I'm liking this whatever romance is happening more, and then anything that has to do with the dragons. But when we get into something that has to do with more like battle stuff, then I feel like my brain start to wander, if that makes sense. So I'm almost done. I finished Fourth Wing, and before I give you my review, let me tell you the worst thing that's ever happened to me. I was reading it, obviously, and following along, and because the edges are black, I think there was a spider just like hanging out up here, and then I don't know how long it had been there, but it crawled across my page and I fell along the book and screamed so loud, and my kids were like, "Are you okay?" I was not okay. There was a spider. Anyway, I'm gonna give Fourth Wing 5 stars. The ending, it ended, like, the thing at the end happens, and then it just ends, right? And I literally said, what the fuck, out loud? Because now I have to wait until November, right? November for Iron Flame after that ending. The ending, no, not gonna lie, did remind me a little bit of Divergent, with a mix of like Mockingjay. And I'm not saying that that's a bad thing, but I am saying with the limited amount of fantasy that I have read, I feel like a lot of them go in this direction, which isn't a bad thing. It's just like not something, like, not new, I guess, for me. So anyway, 5 stars for Fourth Wing, and also 5 stars for The Things We Leave Unfinished. And I cannot tell you how different these two books are from each other, and the writing is completely different as well. Like, there is not one similarity with the writing. I got to the spicy scenes of Fourth Wing, and they are the best spicy scenes that I have read all year. And I wouldn't even consider this like a romance, like maybe a romantasy, but this more fantasy than romance, in my opinion. But the best sex scenes that I've read all year are in Fourth Wing. So that's really interesting. And I would just like to say, I was reading this yesterday on Sprints with Kaylee, and she was like, that sex scene was electrifying, wasn't it? And it definitely was. And if you know, you know. But I absolutely recommend Rebecca Yarros. I feel like if you liked Fourth Wing and you also read fantasy, then you would like The Things We Leave Unfinished. This is the only one I can recommend because this is the only one that I have read. But even if you think you aren't into like historical fiction, I think you would still like this. I liked it a lot. It was extremely good. Like, I read it maybe 2 weeks ago, last week maybe, and I still think this is one of my favorite books of the year, as well as Fourth Wing. Like, I do think Fourth Wing will make it to my top books of 2023. I honestly, at this point in time, think both of these books will make it into my top of 2023, which is wild, especially because I don't consider myself a fantasy reader. But I already pre-ordered Iron Flame, and I'm going to probably use a credit to get the audiobook because I got rid of Scribd and I don't want to wait for Libby for the audiobook, so I can probably read it right away while this is still kind of fresh in my brain. So yeah, that's the end of this video. What I was trying to do was see how Rebecca Yarros went from almost all romance to a new adult fantasy, and I think that she did really well. And once again, the best sex scenes that I have read all year are in Fourth Wing. So I don't know how she did that, but it was excellent. So thanks for watching my video. I hope you like this. I will be doing more author taste tests because I have so many books by authors that I just haven't read yet. But thanks for watching my video. See you in my next one. Bye.
Losing time, I'm fading fast.